Hi everyone, it's Kelly with Women for One, and today I am so excited to be sitting here with one of my dearest friends, Dr. Heidi Zappone. I'm really excited about this conversation because I feel like we all need to talk about wellness, whether it be about the mind, the body, the spirit, and integrating that. And Dr. Heidi is, I call you Dr. Heidi to other people, but of course she's Heidi to me because she's a dear friend. But she is really one of the leading experts in women's health to me. And she's part of my healing team, which I take very seriously. I have just a few people on that, and I believe that we all need to be empowered with our own health and educated about what we do. And Heidi has educated me. She has walked me through many places in my life. I met Heidi when 10 years ago when I was getting divorced, and I was in a really dark place in my life. And she was just like this bright light that came in and educated me. We ended up becoming dear friends. We're travel partners. She's a naturopath. She's a nutritionist. She's a chiropractor by training. But more importantly, she has this beautiful way of integrating health and wellness and educating everyone, both women and men, about what's important about your body, your health, your emotional and your mental and spiritual state. So I'm very excited to talk to her, and I think it will be very valuable to people that watch this because Heidi is developing her own movement right now to educate both women and men and the world around what we need to do to empower ourselves in health. And I'm hoping you can get as much out of listening to Heidi as I do as a friend. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I love our conversations. Every single one of them, every trip, every time that we have a chance to get together, it seems like something expands in a way that I just don't expect it to.
And same for me, every time. So it's a beautiful thing to sit with you and talk with you about everything. And I do believe that friendships and connections like we have such a heart connection. It really, consciousness magnifies effects. So I truly believe when we're together, we can be creative, and it shows that beautiful place of sisterhood that I'm trying to highlight with Women for One, and how women can be supportive of one another and not tear each other down or feel competitive, but really uplift one another to move forward and take action in their lives to have this beautiful vision for themselves.
Absolutely, and you've done a beautiful job of that. I love that. I actually think that our new businesses in some ways align on that front, even though they seem very different. Our backgrounds, yours in business, mine in health, don't seem like they would overlap necessarily. But I love how with that common thread they come together and align in such a way that it becomes empowering and expansive in terms of what we have to give back to the world in that alignment, right?
Absolutely. And you know, we have plans down the road to connect, and we were just at the Omega Institute for an incredible conference with very powerful women but what I loved about it is to have that place to watch these women stepping into their power and educating others, and also being so creative about how they want to shift themselves in the world and educating others with it, because it's what our goals are.
Exactly. I mean, didn't you feel the unity in that room, really, which is unusual in a group of women oftentimes? You know, just the common front in terms of leaning toward what we want to create in the world rather than battling what we don't like.
I completely agree. So let's talk about kind of where you came from, and if you could just kind of give us kind of a background of Heidi and where she came from.
Well, it's interesting, you know, you've picked this up, we've had this conversation before, but you know, Oprah Winfrey talked about a thread, you know, in your lifetime, and most of us don't really have a sense of what that is, you know, that it oftentimes shows up in your younger days and in your early life as a child even, in terms of where your heart and soul are pulling you. And for me, it started at the age of 3 years old. You know, I would go to kindergarten and my mom would drop me off. And when she'd come back to pick me up, she would ask how I did, and the staff would tell them that I was in the corner all day, which is typically reserved for the bad kids, right? And she was a little perplexed by that because I wasn't really a troublemaker. But what they ended up sharing with her was not that I got in trouble, but that when Johnny got in trouble, I would stand next to that person, and just for whatever reason, I had this sense of holding a space that that felt right for me when I heard somebody say, "You're a bad boy," or "You're this." It's like there's something inside of me at that early age that was like, this doesn't align for me. And I feel like without being able to put it into words, there was a place that I could stand to hold a space of difference, and to have somebody feel like A, they're not alone, and B, that somebody sees them in a different light. And so later on in life, that really translated into healing for me. You know, it's the nuts and bolts. Of course, you go to whatever variety of medical school you want to go to that, you know, that calls to you. But healing is so much bigger than being a mechanic of the body, you know, and that is the place. That aha moment happened for me, you know, midway through my practice, when I noticed that there were days that I would have a 13-hour day and I would come home and I would be so energized. I just would want more of it. And it just didn't make sense that, you know, that I didn't want to end, you know, and other days, the same length of day, sometimes a shorter day, and I'd be exhausted. And I was trying, after a while, I started to really think about trying to be conscious of what the difference was in that. You know, why on some days was I just fired up and turned on, and other days I was ready for the day to end. And for me, it really was the difference between becoming a mechanic of the body, having people come in with symptoms, having this linear approach to, here's the medical textbook, you want to lose weight, you do this, and even when it happens, there was some satisfaction in that for me. But when I really got excited was when I saw the light go on in somebody. And the difference was, not only would the symptoms go away, but their lives would change. They would find some truth within them. They would find that thread. You know, it could be through a conversation. It could be, you know, hands-on healing work of some kind. It could be, you know, maybe an exercise in becoming conscious of their lives, that it came forward for them. But this happened in you. I saw that happen in you, where the circumstances of your life, there can be a lot of turmoil going on. You know, there could be life changes. There could be symptoms in the body. And yet when you get that light, there's no going back. And look at what you've done in 2 years, right?
But don't you find that when you have that place of turmoil or that place of darkness, that it's an indicator to make a shift? And I know you've noticed that with people. I mean, sometimes with health, it takes you to get to the precipice of sometimes death or very intense illness, that people make that shift. So you can really use the body as a vehicle to learn and grow in every way, emotionally, spiritually, and physically.
Yeah, the body speaks. It pretty much will be your voice of what's occurring internally. It's just a mirror of what's happening internally. So to just work on the surface or to band-aid the symptoms is a short-term solution to, you know, something that typically doesn't bring you to what you're really looking for. You know?
But when you talk about that, you know, it's not discarding everything that the medical field, it's integrating that.
That's exactly
with the Eastern medicine of more listening to yourself, and that integration and that holistic approach is really what I see is at the forefront of medicine these days.
I agree.
More than anything.
I agree, and I think that that's been a problem, is that we see conventional medicine and alternative medicine, and we don't see the bridge between the two. There's very much a hand-in-hand approach, and both have, you know, incredible opportunity to bring a holistic and much deeper level of healing for people. That's not just about how they physically feel in their bodies, but actually how they show up in the world, you know, how they shine that light, how they become unique, how their gifts show up, you know. And it's really about loving your body, caring for your body, nourishing your body. That's the first step. Second part is finding where your joy is and living that, having the courage to live that. You're teaching that with your movement, right? Having women, first of all, tell their truth, find their truth and tell it, have the courage to share it.
Right.
Bring the community in to support that and realize that we're much more connected than we think we are. And then with those two things together, when we feel well in the world and we have the courage to show up in a way that's authentic, even if it's crazy, you know, because people love that. When it's true, there's something that people get about that. That leads to something called ownership of your life. And when that happens, symptoms in the body they're minor. You know, then it becomes a simple thing. Then it becomes a preference. So you may be 10 pounds overweight. It doesn't hit the core of who you are. You then say, I prefer to be a little bit thinner, and I'm going to do these things to do it, and I know that it's going to work for me because I'm listening.
And it's all about choice and not about victimhood. So it's like you're empowered to make a choice instead of feeling like a victim of your circumstances.
Exactly right.
And that's, you know, what Women for One is about. And it's what your new movement is about, which I'd like to talk about, because it really is about making that choice to step into it instead of feeling like, oh, what do I do? Like, give me a shot, or, you know, what, I mean, and can you talk a little bit about what, and I'm not bashing doctors at all. I think physicians are wonderful, but I'd love for you to talk about like what we talked about on we do a lot of travel together, and, you know, we talked about on our last trip about, you know, you go into a doctor's office, there's no, this is what's working. It's, okay, and they go through the chart, and then they go, okay, these are your issues. So at first it's automatically negative. It's never like, this is what's working.
Yeah.
And good for you, like that positive coaching, you know?
Well, it's not quite as simple as that, but I think there are some incredible leaders of this world, Mother Teresa being one of them. You know, she made a vow not to ever show up at an anti-war rally, but have a peace rally, and she'll be there. And there's something energetically profound about that.
There is.
You know, there really is. So, I mean, how many times do you go into your doctor, and if everything is looking well, you hear nothing, right? We'll call you if there's a problem.
Right.
Right? But you have ever had a doctor go through your blood work and say, oh my God, you know,
your body's a machine.
yeah, I mean, your liver looks like it's functioning like a 20-year-old. Yeah. Your kidneys, this and that and the other thing. And what if we were to embellish that in addition to taking a look at the areas that need to be balanced, right? So if we were to embellish that, it's the same in bringing out your gifts as a woman, right? So maybe you have somebody that's shy to speak, but they have the ability to connect at a human level with people, and you embellish that. You know, what do you think is going to happen from that? If you focus on the fact that they're shy, what do you think their quality of life is going to be? It's going to keep repeating that story over and over and over again.
Right.
So we do that in healthcare as well. So yes, there's a need for, you know, modern medicine has come a long, long way, and we have a lot to be grateful for there. But I think we've lost the care in healthcare. You know, we've become, I can't tell you, in the conversations I've had with my colleagues, the number of times I hear day to day, I had this case today. I'm like, you had a what? I had a case.
Yeah, a case.
And they had this, I'm like, you mean a person? You know? And I can maybe see that in emergency medicine for a very short while. You know, if somebody's gushing blood, you got to get to it, right? But the moment they're stable, they're a human being. And there's so much more to healing than, you know, plugging up the, you know, the gushers. There's just more to it than that. So
I agree.
Right.
I totally agree. So we're talking about how the healthcare industry in general, we've lost that word of care, and a lot of people have become cases by doctors, and so you can shifting over, because I always believe in a balance of things, and you've taught me that over the years, to really listen to my intuition, listen to my body, ask myself those questions. Like you say to me, what do you intuitively feel when I ask you a question? Yeah. And that's not because you don't know or you don't have the knowledge base of the medical field, but it's that other place of integrating, the place of people getting in touch with their bodies. I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are so out of touch with what they want because they're looking to an authority to tell them what's wrong.
Exactly. That's where we start to lose the power that we do have. Oftentimes when I ask those questions, I have a pretty good idea of what's going on, but what I want to do is ask questions that will pique people's interest and start paying attention. It's an awareness and a consciousness of their own thread. Right. You know, I'll ask, what do you intuitively think? And most of the time I get a really blank stare, like, that's why I'm here, that's why I'm paying you. I'm like, well, I'll tell you what I think in a minute. What do you think? You know, and then when I pull the pieces of the story together, and it sort of unfolds into the understanding of why their body is showing up the way it is, now we have some choice and empowerment around what we're going to do about it. There's so much fear in terms of what will happen to our body. Like now these days, it's a matter of, the word cancer, for example, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Most people are like, if I just make it for how long without, I'm in good shape. You know, it's not a matter of if you're going to get it anymore. And so there's a lot of fear around that. So understanding the body and then knowing that we have choice around that. And it's not always what you think. You know, you and I have talked around, you know, the word shame as well, that when people come into me and they ask me for advice and they can't do it perfectly, then either they won't tell me the truth about it, or they feel fearful that if they don't do it perfectly, then everything's going to fall apart. Right. The body's so much more resilient than that. And there's something to be said for embracing the laughter. And, you know, like we have all of these ways in science to measure your blood levels of this, that, and the other thing. And in that moment that we take the blood, certain things look okay. And we have a way to measure that. But we also know that there are certain things physiologically that we can't measure. Like, how do you measure wisdom? How do you measure joy? Right? But we know that they have a distinct physiologic effect in the body. Right. But we ignore it. You know, we ignore those pieces of, you know, our overall wellness in terms of being a significant player, and that's part of what we're talking about too. I completely agree, and I guess I'm thinking about our community, and I think about people watching this going, well, that's just great, but you know what? I only have health insurance. I can't afford to go to a naturopath or a nutritionist or a healthcare to be able to work this big program for myself and then buy the vitamins and do all the wellness. So what would you say to someone that said that and wanted more of a balanced approach where they just take baby steps to start taking ownership of their own health and wellness? And wellness is a different word than health. Yes.
It's a big distinction factor.
Well, I think that was one of the inspirations for Daria Alla Luce, is to provide an online educational forum that's solid in its background. I mean, I have 18 years of experience of hearing it all, and being able to not just take a textbook, because I can't tell you how many times, I'll go to a conference and everything will sound great on paper, and I'll put that into practice. Doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Yeah, so it's the real life practice of it, the things that work, the things that don't, and actually allowing a conversation in a community that costs nothing. People can begin engaging in that conversation and becoming aware of their body, their own intuition, and the baby steps you talked about sometimes are profoundly impactful in the body. We think about going to bed at 10 o'clock at night, and the fact that your greatest healing time is from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., right? If you went to bed at 10 instead of midnight, you've now gained that much more, 50% of your healing time back by making a small shift, and it's not minute. It's huge. And so it doesn't have to be expensive. It's really about, knowing, picking and choosing the things that are most impactful.
Well, and you and I, when we were on our last trip, we talked about, how I've gone through this transition where, I've measured my health around my weight. And then I've gotten to this place where it's like, you know what? I'm very healthy. My organs are healthy.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a little extra weight for the traditional, perfect woman in America, which is kind of a joke because there's other places that I'd be thin,
Absolutely.
So it's just standardized. So to think of myself as unhealthy in the weight that I am and defining my health around weight, it just doesn't work for me. It doesn't bring me any joy. It doesn't feel empowering. It's disempowering. So in that way, we were talking about the balance of how to really embrace that place where it's like, do I want that BLT? Yes, I want that BLT. And I'll give you half my BLT because I love you. And you even embracing,
That's right.
Not just being a gluten-free person, but you embracing your BLT as well. Like, it was just so great.
Well, the Italians get that, right? Yeah. Over in Europe, they get that. They take 2 hours to eat, and they enjoy every minute, and there's community and connection around that. Here, we're eating carrot sticks and running out the door, and physiologically, it's really, I would venture to guess that there's some level of greater healthfulness around taking time and eating the richer foods in some ways than it is to eat carrot sticks and be running and not give your body a chance to digest. So
and deprive your body.
Right, it's a balance of those things. I really feel that if you do it right the greater majority of the time and you play the rest of the time and embrace it fully, that's your best balance. And truthfully, not everybody's body shape is the same. We have taken, there's truly nothing in the world that's beautiful that's not unique. And we've taken this beauty and compressed it into something that's the same. It's all sameness. It's the same size body, the same shape body, the same everything. And I think the very nature that we're trying to make something work against nature creates a level of unhealthfulness that we don't even understand yet.
In our society.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about Daria Alla Luce. So sometimes I get tripped up on the words. So tell me tell me where that came from and how you evolved into creating this movement of wellness around the globe.
Well, the Daria Alla Luce translated literally really means to bring to the light or to give birth to, which seems a little disconnected from the company itself. But it was an inspirational line that I heard in one of my favorite movies, and the way they used it, it was like a being coming in to a space of light. And that is what I recognized, that the days that I was turned on in my practice, that I wanted more of that, I didn't want to go to sleep, I wanted that. It was when I saw that spark in somebody, that truth that actually came alive
the awareness,
in somebody.
the
so
light,
to me, that's what it means to me, is the awakening of that.
Okay. So what are you doing with this movement? Like what is the basis of it, and what's your vision for what you'd be doing?
Well, the offshoot of it was inspired. I mean, I've been in practice 18 years, and I love that. That aspect of my life is wonderful. But there was a part of me that also wanted to be able to reach more people. It was inspired by every single relationship that I've ever had with a patient and watching people, change their lives in such a way. I mean, I have Microsoft patients making, fortunes of money that have given all of that up in order to do something like you and I, mothers that are doing something that's more meaningful to them. And the expansion of that not only brings them back into the financial abundance, but it also is an expansion that is, not something that you can ever put your finger on or define. And I wanted that to be available to a community that's exclusive of no one, whether it be within the United States and around the world. The ability to have access to that information, through the wisdom of, what I've been able to compile over the years. I mean, even just the basics, the love your body part of it. Where do you start?
Right.
You know, there's so much conflicting information, you know, these starvation diets and all
It's
these different things.
overwhelming.
It's hugely overwhelming. So being clear about what the most impactful things can be for people right up front, and then also in a global way, we're trying to get a place where we're creating a community of conversation where we take shame through truth telling, through sharing, turns into celebration and empowerment, right? Okay. It's that you know, openness around that. And then also the last piece of it is to shift the attention away from the things we don't like in our healthcare system now. It's a hot topic. There's a lot of change happening there now, and there's a lot of fear around that in terms of what our healthcare system is going to look like. So we have a huge opportunity right now to choose it, you know, to just focus on what it is that we expect, choose the doctors that we, you know, believe are doing it right. So Daria Alla Luce will support that, bring them to light, in addition to not just my practice, but everyone across the, you know, any medical field that I really feel is bringing the care and the holistic component into it. And by holistic, I don't mean shoving vitamins. I mean really caring for the human being and really getting what it means to show up with your light in the world and have something to give.
So you have a tagline that you created for Daria Alla Luce.
We created.
We had fun doing it,
yes.
But you created it. So can you talk about the different components of it? Because I really feel like that is the grounded part of Daria Alla Luce and the global movement that you're initiating.
I've touched on it, you know, briefly.
A little bit.
Yeah. The first part of it is love your body. It really is. It's the movement away from shame, the movement into nourishment of your body, not just through food, but through everything. Respecting your body, being aware, and a conscious awareness of what it is uniquely for you that you know, is what you need to choose to care for yourself. So loving your body, taking care of your body. Second piece of it is living your joy, being consciously aware of what turns that light on for you. You know, it's not always what you think. And contrary to that too, also being aware of the things that don't. You know, that feeling that we get, we don't think we know what it is, but we all know what it feels like to say yes to something when we mean no. Right? That pit that we get, and the opposite of that is also true. You know, oftentimes it doesn't make sense, but we feel this enlightened state of being when we step into something that's really in alignment with what it is that we want in our life. So living that joy, right? Having the courage to live it, finding a community that supports that and encourages that and celebrates that with you. And then the last piece of it is bringing those two things together in ownership. You know, making empowered choices, choosing the people around you that will support you in that, and then really running with it. You know, just spending the time that we have on this precious earth in the best and most, you know, expanded way that we can.
So in this movement, where do you see women and men coming to the website? And I'm curious what your vision is of how they're going to get something out of it, so that our community can step over to your website and your movement and really figure out what they'll get from it.
Well, through the website and the social media aspect of it, there'll be everything from small bites of wisdom every day, you know, things that you can look at in a moment, in a second,
Which is how our society is right now.
Right, exactly. An inspiration that will have you think about something in a little different way. I mean, there's perspective is not to be diminished. You know, just shift perspective on something can, you know, change how we live our lives, truthfully. You know, if we...
Just a small aha.
Totally, a small aha, right?
I agree.
Because we act on our belief system. So when we tightly hold to our beliefs, we act based on those beliefs. So if there's a little aha, a little shift in perspective, sometimes that can be the catalyst for a huge change. So we have the small bites. We'll have longer blogs that explain more deeply some of the things that you can and can't do that will be helpful for your body. We will have interviews with other doctors that are doing it well, start to shine light on the places that we really feel are doing a great job of caring for people as people, and really are having not just the care part of it, but actually are having incredible results with having people true successes around that. And then the rest is evolving. We will be doing workshops, we'll be doing hopefully online webinars fairly soon as well. So there'll be a lot of opportunity there.
Well, I'm completely inspired by you, and I feel like your wisdom around being a mom and a friend and like a sister to me, and such an incredible healthcare provider that you have done so many different avenues as a doula, as a chiropractor, as a nutritionist, and as a healer. Just generally really holding that space for people to understand their bodies and integrate their mind, body, spirit together and empower and educate each one of these of your patients. You don't even call them patients. I
No.
feel like
Yeah.
you just feel so connected. I
Right.
am really inspired by what you're doing.
Well, and I am of you as well. It's very much aligned, and I think that there's so much greatness ahead, really, for both you and me and the companies that we're representing at this point.
Absolutely. So if you're interested in going to see what Heidi's doing, Dr. Heidi is doing on Dare Alla Luce, you go to Dare, D-A-R-E
Hyphen
hyphen
ALLA hyphen LUCE.com.
.com. So go there and check it out and see what's happening. It's another incredible global movement that a very beautiful woman is starting. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Bye.